Welcome to another CleveTech Tech Tips video. We're actually on tech tip number 15. That's 15 weeks of tech tips so far. And I've had so many requests for tech tips on tyres, thought it was about time we got round to looking at some tyres. So in this video, we're going to have a look at how you can glue your slot car donuts onto your hubs. Whenever you have a new set of hubs, you just want to roughen up the outer surface just to make sure the glue sticks better. So I've got a 2mm axle here in my rotary tool. So I'm just going to put the hub onto there, and then I'm going to use one of these. Great little tool. I'll put a link in the description below, so where you can get it from. I'm just going to spin the hub and then run my diamond lapper on the back of the hub like that. Just clean the edges off. There we go. And then you should be able to see that I've roughened up the hub all the way around. It's not necessarily about truing the hub, it's more just roughening it up so that the glue sticks better to that outer surface. So before gluing my tyre onto my hub, I'm going to bore out the inner diameter of the tyre. This means that the tyre won't stretch so much over the hub, therefore it won't open the rubber out. It obviously won't stretch the rubber, which means the rubber stays softer over the top of the hub, and the softer rubber gives you slightly more grip. So I'm going to use one of these little tools. I made this myself, just a knurled piece of steel bar, but it comes out around about 10.3 diameter. And then I'm going to run this through the middle of my donut and bore it out. So use an electric drill. This is probably best done outside because it can get a bit dusty. But basically you hold the tyre fairly loosely in your hand. Don't obviously grip the tyre too tight because you'll be squashing it and then you'll squash it onto there. Run your drill fairly fast and then run your donut borer through the heart, through the wheel, through the tyre, backwards and forwards a little bit until it goes all the way through. You don't want to get it too hot. There we go, we're now through like that, and I'll just go through from the other side like that, and then you can see we're left with a nice neat hole through the donut, and that nice neat hole will fit nicely onto my hub without having to stretch the rubber too much. After you've roughened up your hubs, the time to just clean them off now. So you need to give them a good clean with a bit of acetone, just to wipe them around, just to make sure there's no grease or dust on your hub before you glue. So I just put a bit on the cloth, run it over the hub like that, just getting on the edges as well, because you want to make sure the glue sticks on the edge. Rubbing off all that dust. You can see, look, there are parts coming off onto the cloth. I don't want the glue trying to stick to that, so I need to make sure my hubs are clean. As you can see, I've cleaned up a few pairs of hubs. Each pair of hubs is just loosely attached to the axle, not tightly, just fairly loose on the axle. They're all cleaned up, ready to go, and I'm going to put some glue on my hubs. Now I've seen some people put them on a very long axle and run glue along the whole lot to do loads of them all at once. It might be a bit quicker. I've not really tried that method, but I've used this method all the time. It works for me. I don't normally glue up very big batches of tyres, so it's probably just as quick to do them individually. This is not the best contact adhesive I've got. I mean, I like Evo Stick, but I know there are some other brands out there that you can paint on that have an activator, etc. as well for gluing things on. But I just use an ordinary contact adhesive. So I will spread it onto the hub. Just run it all over the hub, right up to the edges. Cover the whole hub, make sure you're going off right over the edges. Notice it's drying quite quick, which is fine. Don't mind it drying a bit quickly. Make sure again I got a good coating on both hubs. It doesn't matter if it's a bit rough at this stage, because it will smooth off in a minute. You'll see why. So I've covered both hubs with a good coating of glue. Didn't do that particularly well, mind you. So then I've just got a little ruler here, just a little bit of blue tack on. I just put that on there and that holds them in place. I haven't got a fancy tyre rack or axle rack. I do keep meaning to get round to making a Cleave Tech version of one, and perhaps I will someday. But I just use a ruler with some blue tack at the moment, and then I hook this end just in my slot car box there, and it sticks out and keeps all my hubs apart while I'm waiting for the glue to go off. Spread it over the hub, making sure it goes all the way to the edges. Make sure again going round and round, covering the middle, all over the edges. It doesn't matter if you cover the hole for the grub screw, that doesn't matter, that's a fairly even coat. Same the other side. Spin it round in your hand. Like that. It doesn't matter if it's a little bit uneven at this stage, it will smooth itself out when we put the thinners with it. So there we go, coated all the way around. Then I'm just going to add it to my ruler with my blue tack. There we go, and you can see how it keeps it apart. They're 20 mil apart, by the way. That just separates the hubs enough so they don't touch and stick together. And I'll hook that back on my box. After coating all the hubs with glue, I'm now going to coat the inside of my donuts. So I'm going to squeeze a bit of glue inside. Take my tool, you might have seen this tool be used in a previous video. Very handy little bit of piano wire. And then just spread it around the inside of the donut. Doesn't matter, we're going to give this inside the donut a couple of coatings, so it doesn't matter if it perhaps doesn't make that good an even coating. Sometimes, depending on the rubber that you've got, the glue will soak into the rubber a little bit more than others. But ultimately we're going to end up with quite a smooth surface inside our donut, where the glue has gone off and is ready to accept the hub. So I've glued that one up, and I'll carry on and do the rest. I've glued up all my donuts, and I put my glue on my hubs. I've actually put 2 coats of glue inside my donut just to make sure there's an even coating all the way through the donut, and I've given it about 15 minutes just to set in between coats, and again another 15 minutes after the last coat. So it's not sticky to the touch anymore, and neither are my hubs, so they're not sticky to the touch. In this little pot here I've got some cellulose thinners. Cellulose thinners will start to dissolve the contact adhesive and make it go soft. It also will lubricate it, and I'll just push them together. Some people use a little tool like this to help push the hub into the donut, and the idea is that you slide your hub onto here, you put this the other side of the hub, and then you can push it on and it spreads the donut out and puts it onto your hub. Because I've bored out the donuts, the hub should slide in quite nicely, so I don't necessarily need to stretch the donut. So I don't always use that tool, especially if I'm boring out my donuts first. So I'll take my hub, dip it in my cellulose thinners, just drip a little bit of cellulose thinners around inside the donut. Try not to get it all over the donut because it will dry it out a little bit, but that softens the the glue, the contact adhesive, and then you can just push them together and it should slide in nicely like that, and you can withdraw your axle out of there. You can just take it in. I push it in so it's about halfway in the donut, and then I give it a little roll like that just to make sure that the hub is seated nicely inside the donut, and then I just let that go off for an hour or so, ideally overnight, but sometimes you need to glue them up and use them fairly quickly. So as soon as the cellulose has dried out, then pretty much that's ready for truing down. So onto the other one, just show you once more. Dip it into the pot of cellulose, just run a little bit of cellulose inside the donut, leave your hub inside the cellulose just for a little moment just to soften the contact adhesive, and then you should be able to just take your hub, push it into your donut like that, and withdraw the axle, as I say, about halfway through like that. Give it a roll, make sure it's fully seated, and there we are, and just keep going and glue them all together.